they asked me for a loan, a personal, loan.
Dude.
And all of my friends told me, they said, Amir, don't do it. Like, don't do it. And I said to myself, it's the least I was being too nice. They took advantage.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And, ultimately when it came time to pay it.
Today's guest is a very good friend of mine, Amir S. Hamer. He's an amazing artist, and it's been a joy to watch him over all of these years as he develops his art style and finds new ways to combine his culture and interests into his art. We cover a wide range of topics, and we get really honest about them, like the vulnerability we feel when creating content and putting yourself out there for people to judge, finding your brand, your art style, going to art school, and what advice we have for aspiring artists hoping to find a career in art, and so much more. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Here is Amir Hamer. I wanted to ask about earlier stuff, but I want to jump into this since we're on it.
Yeah.
You've been doing these, you started like recently, those videos where you explain your artwork and what it is. How does it, I understand that's new for you. How does that feel? How does it feel to do those?
Dude, Yeah, it's definitely like foreign water for me. I mean, it feels good because I think like what we were talking about like a while ago in one of our conversations, right? Like it's coming from a very authentic place of like, hey, like here's my soul in my artwork. So it feels like very, to an extent, natural, but then also it's like fighting that whole like perfectionist complex. Yeah. Like the more I'm doing it, like the more guilty I'm noticing I am of it, where I'm just like, like this is the 10th time I've recorded the audio.
Okay, so you do multiple takes?
Yeah. And I just like, I close my eyes and like I don't look at anything. I just like don't look up. No.
That's so funny. It's good because that's such a real feeling. Like I was talking to our mutual friend who does YouTube now, and he was telling me about how when he's recording for the camera, it was like the camera's like staring right at you and you're talking to the camera, and it's so surreal talking to the camera and being casual and natural while still having somewhat of a script or of things you want to say in that in that period of time. So you want to get through the bullets of what you want to say, but you want to say them naturally and casually and in a friendly way, so you're acting normal. You know what I mean? It's like a weird but you're also trying not to make it seem like you're trying too hard, like you're not reading a script.
Right. You're like Larry David playing Larry David, and like Curb Your Enthusiasm or something. But
That's funny.
That's how it feels.
So that's funny that you take multiple takes.
Yeah.
Do you write out what you want to say before, or do you just have it kind of like a gist of it in your head?
I try not to, right? Like I try to like say what I want to say first, and then I'm like, okay, let's make it shorter, let's make it like more concise, and then like that's when I'll write it out after. But I try like speak it first and then say, okay, let's just make it more concise and just say that naturally afterward.
I think that's similar to what I do. I've done videos for like TikTok or for Reels where I try to quickly go through whatever's on my screen and kind of I like take the phone and then move it around the screen and say, this is what I do, this is what I do. And I do notice when I'll feel like I'm talking really fast. I'll feel like I'm blazing through it. And then I look back, it's like a 30-second recording. I'm like, what the hell?
And you're like, damn it.
Yeah, I'm saying as much as I can. How can I say this with less words?
Shorter.
To the point where I don't sound like a caveman. Click here, do that. Like I don't want to just I draw, like you don't want to
eyes to screen.
Yeah, you don't want to cut out too many words.
Look me make.
Watch me, look me, eyes, your eyes on me.
I create now.
Create, sorry, too many words. You've gone over the time. I make art. It good.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Like I was wondering too. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was making my video between last night and like finishing it off this morning. And I was thinking, I was like, how does Michael do it? Because you release so many things and it's such a good thing to do. I'm just like, damn, like Michael's like machine gunning these videos out and like they're all coming out great. The music is good, all this. I'm just like, and he sounds super natural when he does it too. I'm like, how do I not take 12 hours?
So when I look at your videos, the two videos you released so far of you just talking and talking about what you do, compared to how I do it and how, the production quality is yours is already like 10 times more.
Okay.
So somehow the contrast on your when you're recording your screen with your phone, somehow the contrast is better. It's dark. The darks are darker. The lights are lighter.
But, you know,
also, you don't have that weird screen glare glitching bullshit. That's the netting or whatever. You don't have that. Your lighting's good, and then even in your thumbnail for the video, there's like a fern in the foreground. There's always I mean, it's clear. I think that you're spending more time on it than I ever do. I just blurt it out and post it.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny that you say all that, right? Like, I want to like let you in on like some of my secrets. So, like, for starters, with the whole like moire effect, that's what the like stripes on the screen is called.
Wait, what is that called?
Yeah, moire. I can't even pronounce this properly. It's like moire. It sounds like it's like MW moire, but I think it's like
spell that.
I don't recall because
and noir maybe NOR.
No. So I believe it begins with an M. As in Michael, not in. Yeah. So, yeah, that's...
Sounds cool.
Yeah. Sounds pretty cool, right? But, yeah, that's the effect. I think for me, it's, I try and maintain my phone camera like a healthy distance away from the screen. And mind you, that's, I'm using a Samsung Galaxy Ultra Plus.
Holy crap.
Matt. It's like, it's like super, I know, it's like super mega Ultron, Megazord. That's,
Galaxy Megazord.
Right. But I'm using that one, number 2, sorry, Ultra Plus Max.
God damn, 2A.
Yeah, right. Beta. But yeah, so like, I keep that like a healthy distance away. And, the trade-off, right, is that like, it takes a lot more time to curate, like the videos and, even like some of the photos and stuff like that too. You mentioned something about the balances between like the whites and the blacks and the colors. All that's just tweaking the video edit just a little bit to where like the way how you see it in real life, I want it to feel as much like that as possible, not to like, to oversaturate things and to make them vibrant. So you get a little bit of lossiness between digital to digital.
So are you filming like horizontal and then loading it onto an editing program on your computer, or are you just filming it on your phone and then editing it on your phone?
Yeah, I've done both before in the past, but recently I've been doing more of the on the phone. Especially what I've noticed sometimes is that if I try doing the same thing, and if I put it into Premiere Pro or something like that, and then try to upload to social media. It could be me, it could be like my like naivete or maybe my inexperience with the program, but I worry that like the quality comes out too high once I export, and then when I try to upload it into the platforms, it starts to like compress it. Yeah. So I just try to play it safe.
Well, it looks really high quality, so whatever you're doing, it seems to be working.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, and I like it. You're not breaking the brand, because you have a brand almost. I don't know if you recognize it, but you have a brand, at least with the video content that you make. Even your stories, they have a cool soundtrack to it that I've never heard. It's not like some like top 50 chart music. It's something cool. It fits. Yeah, and like that's the one thing that tickles me when I watch your videos, is that I can tell there's like thought in every single part of it. Yeah. And it's like maybe because I've made videos like that, or maybe I've tried to make videos in the past, I can tell the amount of work and the amount of effort that goes into like all the stuff you're doing. You're like making the video for the platform and then putting it to the platform. You're not just using using the default text that comes with Instagram. You're using your own type on the computer and then exporting it out.
Yeah, exactly. All again for the sake of, like you said, trying to stay in brand. Like there's a very specific experience that I want people to feel when they're taking a look at my content. So all of it's intentional.
Huh? Where does that come from?
Great question. I think a lot of places. It's not just one place. And I would say that like for every form of art expression, right? Like some of my aesthetic comes from some medium of that. So like for the music, a lot of that comes from down-tempo beats that like I would hear going to like Brown Brick Lounge or something someplace. Remixes and themes that like leverage a lot of international sounds to make kind of housey bootleg type of soundtrack or, mix or whatever. So I go for stuff like that because to me that speaks a lot more towards like just what I gravitate to
Okay.
in real life. And then yeah, everything from like the colors to the cinematography, the transitions, all of that stuff too. I think a lot of my inspiration came from things like Porsche, even as like a kid, funny enough, not just having worked with them as my last employer, but it comes from everywhere, dude. There's so many things. Name some subject, and I could tell you how there's a connection to it. I promise.
So I mean, I definitely see the cafe, lounge, after hours vibe. It feels like I found some kind of speakeasy cafe at like 10 p.m. somewhere in the city. And then I go in and it's dimly lit. It's like some lo-fi down-tempo house music.
Yeah.
And then there's like you working on some drawing for something and you're like well-dressed. You're wearing what you're wearing now. And everyone is, creative, jazz, and there's smoke and stuff like that.
Yeah, very, very glass and stone-esque, I guess you could say, right? Like you've got the industrial, you've got the nature, kind of finding a middle ground someplace, but...
How does that tie in with like the whole, and I think you mentioned it in one of your videos, which was African, Middle Eastern, and Asian. So you mentioned those three in one of your videos. Yeah. And I feel like those three hit the nail on the head of like most of the work that you seem to be doing. So it seems to come from those sources. So how does that tie in with like this whole other aesthetic?
Yeah, great question. I think I feel like I have to like reverse engineer the question to answer it right now. So just bear with me.
Yeah, for sure.
I think as far as for those themes that you're describing, right? Like they come from a place of intrigue and they come from a place of personal connection. If anything, I feel like part of that is part of me that's kind of manifesting into an environment that's very, industrial, low-key, down-tempo, lo-fi, all that stuff that you mentioned. And it kind of gets like synthesized and remixed in this, way that you're describing, right? So I think it's part of that. I think that a lot of my work tends to do the same thing. Like it'll come from a place where it could be like, North African, West African, Middle East, whatever. And then something else could be like anime, manga, whatever. And then like you mix it up with, speakeasy vibe that you talked about, and then you get the result at the end.
It's weird because when you describe Middle Eastern, African, and Asian, and then like anime or manga, and then this industrial lo-fi lounge, those all three sound very different. But for some reason, when they're in your hands, it all works. You know what I mean? Like it all works together. And I don't know if it's the way that you're presenting it or the music. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they're all related, even though they don't seem like they would be related. So you've somehow managed to make those things work together really well.
I'm flattered, man. Really, that goes a long way. So,
well, I'm glad, man, because I see that stuff. No one else is doing anything like this. I really can't. That's the thing is like I wanted to ask. Is there anyone else that you can think of that's doing something similar, or somebody that you might have seen? Like there was probably a point where you didn't have all this kind of brand, right? Talk me through that.
Yeah, sure. So I'll answer kind of both questions for that. Like the last one first, right? Like I feel like the brand, was very much like scattered in some places. You would see like these glimmers and hints and, like, oh, wow, like that's really cool maybe. But, like if you look at the past and you look at the present, you would see these kind of elements, if you will, that eventually metamorphosed into what we know today. Big word.
Yeah, but that's also the name of your, that's a project for you, right? Isn't that one of your projects?
Yeah, right. Marketing. Boom.
Plug it.
Yeah, right. But so you would see these things kind of like evolve, if you will, into like what they are today. Because I think that all those things again have always kind of been parts of me, but like as I've matured, I think that the synthesis has also kind of matured as well too. So you see more of that glue and that like melding together of things more consistently. And then as far as for, let's see, the other question you were asking about,
I forgot what it was.
It was. I remember now. It was like, I was like, crap. What was it? No. I'll help you out with that, buddy. It was influences or people. I'm a big fan of Hideo Kojima. I think that like if we're just talking about storytelling and like just his style, even for a lot of the stuff that he makes. Yeah, like I think that everything from like typography to like the emotion and the expression and like the line work that he does for like concept art for like Solid Snake or something, like, you know, beating somebody's ass or whatever. But like, you know, he does it in such like a classy, calligraphic, ink splatter type of way to where like you feel the artistic expression behind like the brand that he's created. In addition to the staging and the kind of cinematography of you know, how all of that is kind of handled as well too. I don't recall if he's the one who's doing like all the concept art, but nonetheless, he's kind of helping to bring it together. Even though that's a bit more anime video game department that we're talking about, but
I guess I've never really paid attention to what his aesthetic or what his style is like, and he definitely has a narrative, like a way of telling stories that's very rich, kind of complex. I mean, whatever you're doing, I say keep doing it, but also, and this is something I think I really like about you, because it is especially something that I'm bad at, which is being consistent. Being consistent, really? Yes, because like I can do things for sprints, or I can create art for forever, but what kind of theme, what kind of art I'm in, the style, the tools that I'm using, that seems to change more often than I would like it to. It seems like just as I'm figuring out what my stride is, just as I'm figuring out the brand or whatever, it starts to, I get sick of it, or I get bored of it, and then I want to change it. I want to rebrand completely. Like there's that like toxic artistic urge to scrap everything and rebrand as something totally different, or rebrand change your username, change your whole aesthetic, change the tools that you use, start a brand new account and just restart. Do you ever get that, or are you...
Call me Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. Do you ever have that urge, or have you just been lucky in that it's always like synthesizing and evolving into the next thing that feels like natural?
Yeah, you know, I think maybe in like isolated moments, you know, like maybe I'll have that urge like somewhere, especially... I shouldn't really say especially. I feel like I'm getting more comfortable now, but like, you know, going back to the whole like manga aesthetic of things, it took me a while to like get into the groove of my style, you know, like with my light novel, you know, illustrations, manga artwork and stuff like that. But there was definitely a point where I was like, oh, you know, should it be more realistic? Should it be more watercolory, or, you know, like whatever? And
I think honestly, I don't read a lot of manga, but I would assume that there's not a lot of manga that approaches the visual side from the way that you do visuals. So I'm not talking about specifically the way that you draw the manga and the way that you draw your characters, because you still follow that traditional manga style, but specifically the dark, moody, smoky cafe, like a lot of dark tones. I'm just thinking about your videos and what I see in your videos, even like the green of the plant is dark green. It's not like a light, bright, lush green. You're not the type of artist where I see strong beams of light that a lot of people do when they do, like, you know, if you see cottagecore or something like that, you see plants everywhere and they see this super bright light. For you, it's like usually in the nighttime, there's not a lot of sun. It's a lot of artificial light. And then, but from that, if you were to put more of those influences into your manga, I feel like that seems, which seems like to already come naturally to you. I think that would make the manga stand out even more than it already does. Compared to all the other manga that's out there. Sure.
I totally agree. You know, I think it's definitely something that I want to try to incorporate a lot more of. I think that you know, one thing that I try to do right is I'll segregate sometimes like certain projects from another, because if I detect that the aesthetic is going to be you know, like moderately different than like my main brand, say for example, then, you know, I'll try to create an experience for that. But to your point, I think that there is that kind of like certain natural, you know, expression, if you will, that does come out, and that should continue to come out, you know, for that avenue as well too. So let's see how it goes. You know, a website needs to be made. So I'm getting... Why? Yeah. Great question. Question.
I know you you like making websites.
Yeah.
I'm only asking why, not to be like a dick, but because I recognize...
Amir, come on.
No, I recognize I see a lot of similarities between you and I with micro projects.
Yeah.
You know, again, like starting something and then getting bored of it and then dropping it.
Yeah.
In my mind, like knowing you and knowing that that's how you work sometimes, and knowing myself, I worry that feeding into the thing that you're most excited about, which is building the brand around the thing rather than maybe the thing itself. The hard part is building the thing itself. The easier, distracting parts is building the ancillary like brand that goes and everything that goes around it, like merch, website, video, trailer, all that stuff. But I also know you like building websites and you're good at that. Why does a website, with all of that in mind, why does a website need to exist for you to create your manga?
One answer to that question, right, is there needs to be a kind of a central hub for, I guess you could say, people who are interested, followers, etc., to be able to go to, subscribe for like newsletters, information, just to get information in general with regard to like production, orders, whatever, that certain social media platforms, like Instagram, say, for example, right, like can't provide. And don't get me wrong, you could still like do a lot like with an Instagram profile, but there's also something to be said about the experience, right? Like when you land on that page, and this is the part that you're talking about, where it's like, exactly,
I'm hearing everything. I'm hearing everything but the meat. I'm hearing everything but the meat of what you're actually making. You're getting into the details of the little things that sprinkle and that decorate the core of it, but maybe I'm like judging too early because I don't know where the core of the manga is, like how much you've developed. I don't know. You might have developed like a lot of it. Like now you're ready to start developing other things. I don't know.
It's funny that you ask because a second ago I just kind of like reached down and
oh my god! So that's the whole thing.
This isn't the whole. This is half.
Oh, wait, hold on. Flip through that just in front of the camera. I want to see.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. And unfortunately,
just let it
misprints and things like that.
Oh, I see what it is. So it's mostly text. It's not like a comic book or nothing.
Yeah, this is a light novel.
Oh,
and so the manga work is really.
Let me see the cover again. Just
I'm sure. Yeah, like I'm before I show it, and I will. I'm self-conscious about this one because the cover's been completely redone to the kind of Art Nouveau thing that we.
So this isn't the final cover, so it's all right. We can.
Yeah. This is.
It looks good though.
People. Hey, thanks. Yeah. So, that being said, right, like there's a certain amount of information that I do kind of want to keep like just under wraps for now with regard to like the website because it hasn't been made or, like thoroughly kind of worked through as a strategic platform as well. But again, just having number one, building up like a hype campaign for it. Number two, giving people like the resources to learn about like the book, the story in a way that's more interactive than, just an Instagram profile or account.
Okay. So then totally ignore everything I said earlier about not building a website. I think I'll just take the L on that one. Because that's clearly plenty of content to start building something around. Like you totally should be doing that stuff.
But funny thing, like even to me, like this doesn't even feel like enough to me. It really doesn't.
Wow.
Like I said, like this is. Let me take a look at what chapter.
That's thicker than any book I've ever read in my life, probably.
Hey.
I don't read.
This is read not for me.
No,
I like
all those books back there. They're not mine.
They're for decoration.
All the pages have been ripped out. They're just husks.
Could fooled me.
Yeah,
but yeah, I was just gonna say like this is a little less than half of volume 1.
Wow.
And so like really want to get that done. I know that I probably shouldn't like invest way too much energy in something that does need to build a campaign as well too before like putting the cart before the horse. Maybe I'm rambling right now. I'm trying to say that like. When I make the website, I don't expect all of volume 1 to be fully complete, but I do want at least 65% of it done.
So is that book, is that something that people can buy, or is that something that just you made for yourself?
I made a few limited editions of this. And so even though I wasn't selling it, I was kind of sampling it around to, close friends to kind of get their thoughts.
Jeez.
Just to say, yeah.
Can I buy one? Can I get one? Can I order one?
Dude, I'd happily give you one.
Yeah,
especially the updated one too.
Okay.
Like this is like old rough draft stuff basically.
Yeah, I totally want to read it. I mean, that'll be the first big boy book that I read, but I'd be excited. I'm telling you, I want to.
Big boy book.
I want to.
Hey, I'm flattered.
Yeah.
And then for sure.
So is there nothing to follow right now? There's no like besides
there is
okay.
There is, even though, and the people on this page are going to hate me for it. Like I'm thinking about trying to kind of centralize more of it towards my own personal account. There is an account that's specific to Kenix. That's the name of my book.
Kenix.
Kenix, yeah. Kenix,
Okay.
like Kenix, but Kenix. But yeah. That being said, the account is called Creative Animus. That's for this book. But my personal account, which is showing more content than that one right now, is at Amir S. Hamer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
That's good to know, man.
I'll give you that copy.
Yeah, dude, I would love that.
Copy. Yeah, I'd be happy to share. And knowing you, I think you'll like it, knowing our mutual interest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And high fantasy. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's something you could definitely take to, like, I don't know, Kickstarter or something.
Yeah.
You can maybe get the next volume of it done through that.
It would be amazing. Yeah, all the help, towards this project would be much supported. So all of it's self-funded right now. We'll see.
Dude, nice.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. I know you were working on that, but it's nice to actually see. It's one of those things like, I know you're working on stuff, but I only get like a sliver of a hint of 15%. Something. Yeah, I see like a cryptic video, and I'm like, oh, there's something there. And then like, I didn't know there's a whole ass book that you had. Like, there's no way.
But you can't see.
Yeah, not ready yet. I don't know. Like, I'm generally curious about this stuff. So like me and you went to the same high school, Carver Center for Arts and Technology, and
that we did.
Apparently we've crossed paths before, but had no idea in elementary school and stuff. But we really only became friends in high school. And even in high school, you kind of had some of this brand aesthetic already manifesting. Like it was there. Yeah. It was like a hint of it. Yeah, a hint of it was there.
Yeah.
And based on what you were drawing, you would draw like very technical stuff. I'm curious because I know that there was a couple like mutual friends that we share.
Yeah.
That I ended up getting really close with, but then I feel like I never got that close. I feel like I'm closer to you now than I was in high school, basically.
I totally agree. Yeah. Just kind of recounting, I guess, my memories of the old Carver Center for the Arts and Technology, excuse me. We were friends, but like I was hanging out with so many other people too. Yeah. So I felt like my attention was like, spread across the spectrum and kind of like almost like even like distribution of things with people.
Yeah, you had it's not like we had classes together and then I would talk and look at each other's artwork and stuff like that and talk about mutual interests. But I'm just curious, and I hope this isn't like a weird question, but I am curious.
Oh, dude, like, come on. Yeah,
going back into high school. What was your experience of high school, and what was your experience being outside of high school, and how did that, like, how was your art involved in all of that?
Yeah, great question, man. I think especially for Carver, I kind of made this analogy to you like the last time I think we were talking about like auditioning, for the magnet school, but Carver was kind of like the accumulation of all the training that I had done as a creative and artist. And, number one, like getting there was like the ultimate test of skill. Like I was comparing that to like the tuning exams and like Naruto, dude.
I'm pretty sure we all ran in high school like Naruto kids. Like I know.
Yeah, he did the Naruto
run. Jumping over bushes and things. Yeah.
Yeah, tripping over a fence and busting, your ass afterward. That was definitely me.
Ripping your pants. Walking around school with your ripped pants all day. Just
yeah. Middle school, like not to like deviate, but yeah, like in wearing my school uniform and not having gym clothes and getting mud all over it. Walking around the school hallways with a muddy shirt all day.
Your tight jeans.
Tight jeans.
Tight jeans, like tight.
Oh, no.
All the clothes are like either hand-me-downs or either too loose or too tight.
Exactly.
And then you'd be like just sweaty after gym class. It's like 9 a.m. and you're sweaty. Yeah, it's like, already
day's
stink.
Just starting.
Yeah, you already stink. Just had breakfast.
Just like shit, man. Why did it have to be today? But going back to your question about like what was it like? Honestly, yeah. I mean, like for me, like I loved it. Like Carver was like it was like this like magical place to escape to, because of the fact that like I think growing up, right, like in all of my time between like the Baltimore County area like Carver was the only place where there were so many like minds and, you know, like talented people, you know, like you doing like their own vastly different and unique thing.
Yeah.
To where it's just like, dude, like tell me about you. Tell me about this song that you're writing, or tell me about the sculpture that you're making, or whatever.
I just want to add, like, it was crazy because it was, like you said, it was all the kids from that area. We would all converge at this school. So you would meet people that are into the same thing you are creatively, but you'd be stunned because how have I not met you before? Like, how have all of my friends before coming to Carver were not really art kids. I was the kid in elementary school and middle school that kids would ask me to draw Pikachu or whatever. Or ask me to draw like some random celebrity that week. In a weird way, drawing made me make friends, or made me cool, or made me like not get bullied. I'd get bullied by some kid, and then I would draw like his favorite Nike shoe, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're cool now. You're cool. Yeah, hey, he cool. And nobody mess with him. He's cool now. Like he can draw.
Exactly.
He's a drawer. Right. He can draw.
he's a drawer.
Yeah, he's a drawer.
And dude, he's drawing.
Yeah. Hey, yo, draw Goku, and you draw Goku dude, like no problem. And like, what?
Exactly.
Mind blown.
Right. And I think that was like all of our experiences, because like your experience that you mentioned was like my experience too.
Yeah.
Like, yo, like, dude, all.
I hate it.
Did you?
Yeah, no. Yo, I mean, I got bullied like all of elementary school, all of middle school got bullied.
No way.
Yeah. So the only way out was to just draw.
Crap. Yeah. So I think for me, like, you know, it's funny that we're talking about this now, because like my elementary school, my experience, I felt like it was kind of like predicated on several things. Like, number one, drawing. Yeah, every other day, hey, can you draw Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta for me?
Yeah, draw Super Saiyan 7 Goten. You're like, that doesn't even exist. Dude, you just draw like it's super
just long ass hair.
Yeah, a waterfall of hair, silver. All right, I guess. He's got 3 tails. Sure.
Right, like rainbow hair or some shit. Like,
it's 9 tails Goten, yo. It's 9 tails.
Yeah,
he's got a rat tail.
Oh my gosh. Exactly. Can you draw a Super Saiyan Piccolo? Piccolo can't even go Super Saiyan.
What the fuck? He's got hair all of a sudden.
Right.
He's got 4 antennas. He's got a third eye.
Dude, I'm dying over here.
What's it called? Like, wasn't it like special beam cannon or hyper beam cannon or something like that?
Special beam, it's his signature move that was like super cool. Special beam cannon.
Yeah.
So so part of my experience was like predicated on that, but then like also, and I don't know if you remember this, because like a lot of people like did, but my mother, she was a reporter. She was one of the main reporters for WJZ.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So people knew me as like the son of, you know, the reporter for WJZ, and I was just like, yeah, that's my mom. Yeah, she's on TV. Yeah, it's not a big deal or anything, but you know.
So like, people knew you for that a little bit. That's nice. Well, actually, I take it back. I don't remember if my days were that bad, and it may not have been as bad. I think the other schools might have clouded some of that, but I do remember some of my middle school, some of my elementary school days being not so bad, pretty good. Because it's like,
did you ever go?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Did you go to elementary? Because I went to. Okay, yeah. I had some dark memories. So I feel you, man. I get it. Like, I'll never forget. Like, funny story. Okay, it was like the last day of school, I think. I was in the first grade.
Damn.
And so like, yeah. And so like, you know, for me, I started school like technically like 2 years earlier, I guess, like, than everybody else. I was just like less than a toddler, okay, like in the first grade, okay. And so
less than a toddler. Oh my god, that's like what is that? An infant? What is that?
Right. Yeah. Right. Just babbling. You know, Amir, what's the answer? Blah blah blah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And so yeah, like you know, I remember specifically like my whole first grade year, I could not focus, dude. I was like, I couldn't focus on like anything besides like studying. Yeah. But like for me, it's just like, I'm gonna draw, I'm gonna study insects, and that's it.
Nice. I wanted to ask, what was your favorite insect?
Ooh, good question. Easy answer for me. I was a huge praying mantis fan. Like to this day, easily my favorite insect,
Oh,
favorite
okay.
animal.
Ever since first grade,
Yeah,
praying mantis.
I would say
Wow,
probably before then too. Yeah, yeah. But
that's a good one. That's a good one.
hey,
I like beetles,
ooh,
like
yeah.
rhinoceros beetles, like those giant beetles. Those
I
were
thought you would
cool
say
as
that.
hell. Yeah, they were cool. They
Yeah,
were just
dude.
like they don't even feel like an insect. They're
Yeah,
because
yeah.
insect feels small like fly or ant,
Yeah,
but rhinoceros beetle or just beetles in general, they're just so big. Like there's something else.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. But going back to the story, right? Like I accrued this massive backlog of work from like the entire school year that like I didn't
Wow.
do.
Oh,
And so
oh,
like exactly. And so the teacher, Miss
we don't want
gosh.
to. We don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
in
Never
case.
mind, never
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just in case. Thank you. Thank you. Um but yeah, like I remember there was like a like school event, like activity, all the kids they go out there, they're just playing all day outside. I was explicitly told, Amir, you cannot join this event.
Oh my god, that's devastating.
Dude, I was shut inside the classroom for I don't know, like at least an hour to 2 hours straight, dude. I
Dude,
was like, this is, yeah.
you have to watch everyone outside play.
Not even. All the lights were shut off. It was like literally like
What the hell?
I know. This was like probably abuse, but it's a good thing we didn't mention the name. But
Oh man, that
dude,
sucks. Was it
yeah,
because
dude,
you weren't doing your work?
yeah, yeah. I think that. I mean, I'm sure that was why. But like, I just
Yeah.
remember I said like a prayer. Like I prayed to God. I was like,
Oh my
please let this
god.
day be over.
Oh, let it rain or something.
Right.
Dude, that sucks.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, that's first grade. Who
So,
cares, man? Nobody cares about first grade.
dude, right? Except, clearly some teachers do, but hey, first
Well, you
grade.
showed her because now you're an artist.
Touche.
And you're successful and you have clients such as Porsche on your resume.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm,
Imagine you bust in that door like now coming back in the
yeah.
future, be like, let him
Yeah,
outside.
yeah.
Let him outside. I work for Porsche and other clients as a UI designer.
Just like throw copies of my resume in front of her face.
Yeah.
Just,
Give her like a copy of Kenix or whatever, throw it. Yeah.
yeah.
So like how does so you were talking about high school then, like your experience in high school and then outside of high school. Like did you
Yeah, yeah.
continue doing art outside of high school, like on your day to day, or I mean, I don't know if it helps for me.
Mm,
I think I did most of my artwork inside of the high school because it was a lot of like
right.
sculpture, it was painting, it was everything. And then also just like effing off during class and not, history, and I'd be drawing anyway, like comics with Taylor and stuff like that. So it
Oh,
like
yeah, I remember.
I would draw even for classes I wasn't supposed to be drawing in. So I'd be like doing my own
Yeah.
fun drawing, and then I would do the real drawing in the classes that mattered. But like, did you keep drawing at home? Did you practice drawing something different at home, or?
Yeah, great questions. I think it was like all of the above, honestly, because if you recall correctly, there's a specific rule at Carver
Mm.
to where you were not allowed to draw, anime or manga related,
Oh
things.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
they would get mad, and then also the kids would get so mad at them for not allowing you.
yeah. Yeah, like I would take my escape like outside of school to do like the hyper stylized art stuff, and I'd stick with like all the realism kind of based pieces in Carver, but I do like a lot at home too. But long story short, like I'd experiment, I guess, more with the kind of cartoony stylizations of things at home, and then after high school, like you were saying, did do a lot more drawings. I did sculptures. I did, like just other projects. And so all of that still kind of led to me working on my art stuff despite not having gone to Carver
So
after sophomore year.
how
Yeah.
did that then transition you into college? Did you go to an art college?
No. Yeah, funny thing, no. I went to an engineering based college.
Oh, and was
Um,
that because you were like choosing to do that as a career instead?
so my plan, when I was going into college was to go to this university, Southern Polytechnic State University. I was going to go there and I was going to transfer over to Georgia Tech to study industrial design. Yeah. Even though it wasn't like, true engineering, there's a lot of engineering that's involved in industrial design. So, that being said, that was part of the reason why I, picked that choice. And you asked another question too. It was about how I continued to.
Yeah, I guess after high school. I guess I'm asking because there's kind of a fall off. A lot of kids come into Carver who are creative, and then the amount that leave is like less. That's true for college. That's true for a lot of things. It's a magnet school, so you need to really keep practicing your craft in order to stay with it, and then you have a senior show at the end. It's like a whole thing. People fall off, and then you have a smaller amount of people than the people. And there's also auditions. Like if you want to come in, you have to audition, and you have to bring a bunch of work, and they can
lots of filtering,
reject you. Yeah. So that happens through high school, and then with art school, I'm sure like a lot of people go into art school, and then less people leave because people drop out, whatever reasons, and maybe they just decide it's not for them. I guess that's kind of a two-part question. Is like, did you know you wanted to do art as a career before you were going into college? And then also, how did you decide that you wanted to do industrial design? Because Carver was a more like a traditional art school, like sculpting, painting. How did you get into industrial design? And then did you by then know that you wanted to do this as your career?
Yeah, great questions, man. So funny thing, like I was at Carver, I felt like I was like the odd one out because I was doing all these art programs, and I would always say like, oh, I'm gonna be an entomologist. People were like, what?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah.
They say, what the f*** is that as a Naruto run over a wall?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a scientist who studies arthropods, or like insects and arachnids and crustaceans and all of those things. So I thought I was going to be one of those because just kind of like dialing it back a little bit further. Growing up, I always had this kind of trinity, if you will, of interests, like recycling in my head over and over again. And one of them was entomology, the study of the natural sciences with, all the stuff I talked about. The other was robotics and engineering.
Dude, yeah.
And and then, of course, the third was, the fine arts. Yeah.
Damn.
So yeah.
That's
yeah.
great.
So,
those are all awesome things.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Thanks. And, I think that you mentioned it before, like people would see, like parts of those hints kind of like surface and, my artwork, right? Like aesthetics aside, you would see like schematics on something. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so after Carver, right, I kind of, once it came time for the college kind of decision making to be done, I really had to figure out like, what am I going to do and why? And I didn't want to, forfeit the sciences, right? Because like they were so instrumental to just the way how I navigate the world, right? Like decision making, logic, philosophy, all of that. But then I knew that, entomologists, they don't get paid, too much. And then at the same time too, like if I did take that pursuit, then I'd be forfeiting all of my artistic or most of my artistic applications. And then if I just stuck with being an artist, like it was a very risky career to me. It's like, are you going to make a career painting, or are you going to make a career, and to me that for me personally, it wasn't an option to, take that risk for me. And so I found something that really kind of like married, all those themes together in design. And ultimately today as a, professional designer, multidisciplinary designer, like that's really how I've, arrived at that decision making while still doing the fine arts and doing all the other kind of more creative things on the side too.
Isn't that so interesting that like, and I remember it being in that place, that mind space, right after high school and that summer right before college of what do I want to do for the rest of my life? This is whatever I choose to go to college for is going to be the thing that I have to right now decide if I'm cool with doing for the rest of my life. And it's total bullshit because if you really think about it, college after that is 4 years. That's such a small amount of time in comparison to how much time has passed since college. You will still have time to do so many things. You will still have time to switch your career. You can finish college, have a career in whatever you went to college for, and then still have time to switch your career and restart and completely go in a new direction and have a successful career in that new direction, in that totally new way. On top of that, you can have a career in something, and if you manage your time wisely, you can have an equal amount of time to spend on personal work, and that personal project can be whatever you want. So it's like going into college does, especially from high school, and not having the right people around you maybe to inform you that, hey, you're going to be all right. You can kind of go to college for whatever you want and still be, you can go to college for entomology and still be a traditional painter 5 years later. You can go to college for, in your case, industrial design and be a UI UX designer as a career a couple years after that and be a successful one at that. It's interesting. It brings me back to that mindset of, before you go to college, what college do you want to go to? The college that you pick is going to define your future for the rest of your life. And it's like, there's so much unnecessary pressure around that decision that it doesn't matter. And then like there's also that weird guilt of like, if you don't end up liking it in the middle of a college, you're like, I fucked up.
What do you do?
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. It is interesting, right?
And we're both still so young, like 30s. That's really not that. That's not that old. That's still super duper young in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. It just brought me. It just brought me back to that, how you can switch your career in like less than a year. Your life can change in less than a year. It's so true. It's crazy.
I think for me, right, like one of the biggest kind of daunting factors of it was really kind of the decisioning behind the foundational lessons that you're going to learn in your degree. I didn't want to go get something in, I don't know, civil engineering and build a foundation that's, like dedicated to like civil engineering, but then say like, oh, but I also want to be a, designer, this, that outside of, you could, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you easily could.
Yeah, you easily could. But I think for me, what I found to be of more value was really going to, a program or a series of programs, if we're including, like high school and stuff like that too, to where the lessons taught in that were still very cross-functional. Like even though the things that I learned in my university dealt with like architecture or like, loosely around like typography or visual design or this and this and that, a lot of those core philosophies still did translate into like user experience design and other things too.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. I mean, I can definitely see your understanding of things and your reasoning behind your design is definitely thought out, and I'm sure you learned that through the grind of going through an industrial design course. And like industrial design in its own way is you have to think about what you're doing and why, and has to be efficient but also beautiful, and it has to be new. Like, what's a new way we can make this chair fold?
Yeah, and funny thing, I should also throw this out there. I never took one official industrial design course.
Oh, so you're a fraud.
I'm a fraud. Yeah. I made this
all
entire.
All right, we're turning this off.
Get out of here. No. So, my degree that I actually left with was New Media Arts from Southern Polytech.
Okay.
And my intention was to transfer to Georgia Tech for industrial design, and I never actually did. But I still did take courses that like had a lot of leverage within that same curriculum. I was matching my curriculum to their curriculum, I suppose, as best as I could from that school to still take things that were translatable between the two.
That makes sense. And that's good. When you said earlier that decision of which art school you want to go to, and then you specifically said the word sacrifice, you have to pick what you want to go to college for, because and whatever you choose, you might be sacrificing some other part. And it made me think again about how like we feel like we have to sacrifice something, but you really don't. You just kind of put that on hold, or you put that on pause, because you can still do that stuff outside of school. Like if you're really into this other hobby, like skateboarding or something, you don't have to say, oh, I have to put everything on hold just so I can focus on this thing for college. You can go to school and then skateboard outside of school. You can go to school and then do some totally different, unrelated thing, that you're interested in, your hobbies. It also made me think about how there's a large group of people that have a regular day job that has nothing to do with art, but then do art outside of that, or do something creative with their income or with the salary that they make. Like they can be a programmer and then make a ton of money off of that, and then outside of work they build board games or something, or they have like an entire they have a whole side hustle where they're making board games and they're publishing them, they're hiring artists, and then like I've worked with people like that. And it's so interesting because that you can tell that this person is super creative, and they're getting to do both things. They're getting to do this super technical thing that's their main job, and then they do the art stuff on the side at the end of the day. And you can definitely do both, and you can definitely have a very healthy life and a career where you do both of those things.
Yeah, totally, totally. It's funny with the programmer analogy, right? Or, you know, like example, not analogy, but, you know, even with that, like there's so many, like me having, you know, programmed and work with script and stuff like that before too, like even those basic principles, like play part in word games, right? You know, conditional statements, like if you move here, you know, like then you can only do A, B, C, or D.
Yeah. Maybe that's why more programmers are into board games, or developers and play board games.
Or Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, all of that stuff.
Yeah, they're like DMs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, kind of connected to that, so I was freelancing after college. I was freelancing, just out in the open ocean, freelancing, trying to figure out how to get work and that whole jungle, that whole maze. And
I remember.
Yeah, it's
for
tough.
myself at least. Yeah,
dude, it's not easy. And I will say this: if you want to go into freelancing, I would recommend getting an in-house job first, getting a job where you're working like at a studio or something like that, just to learn how they work, learn how to put time into your work and how to build a schedule, work-life balance kind of thing. And then if you want to go into freelancing, jump into freelancing after having done some in-house work. Because I did the opposite. I did freelancing right out of the gate, and it was a lot of figuring things out, contracts, figuring out how to set a rate, how do I charge, what is enough revisions, all this kind of stuff. If you go into an in-house environment or like a studio, they have their own way of handling that kind of stuff, and you can just learn from them and then apply that to your freelancing when you get out.
Yeah.
But when I was freelancing, one of the things that a lot of people encourage if you're freelancing is go to cons, go to like art things so you can meet people and rub elbows and all that kind of stuff. And I'd go to these conferences and conventions, and at the time, I thought that to be a successful freelance artist, to be a successful artist, all of my income had to come from freelancing. Right. So I would basically be busting my ass at the same time, not knowing how much to charge, all this kind of stuff, charging like what I thought was appropriate. My rate really just came from how much money do I need to make this month to make rent and to pay for food.
Yeah.
That was whatever the situation was financially, that was my rate, like high or low. And so like when I would go to these conferences, I would talk to some of the artists there that were selling their artwork, whatever, you'd have to buy a table if you go to a conference, and they're usually like, depending on the size of the conference or the convention, it can go up to like, it can go between like $500 to like $10,000 depending on the conference.
That much?
Yeah. I think I've heard some people say at the biggest conference or the biggest convention, like those tables are like thousands of dollars just for like an artist alley thing for the weekend or something like that. Yeah. Or like you can get a table at Ren Fair, you know, Renaissance Festival. You can get a booth at those things, and those are even more. Those are like the highest tier of tables that you can buy as an artist, because you can get you get like a booth, a table or something. And I don't know the logistics totally. I just know from like one guy that I heard. It's like getting a space at Ren Fair to sell as an artist. You have to basically lease it out for like 6 months or something, and you have to sign on to be there like for the season or something like that. And then you keep that space, and it's yours. It's physically yours. It's like a whole thing. But you can go all the way up to doing stuff there. I know a guy who I followed kind of as he was selling at this con, then this con, and then now he's selling at Ren Fair and stuff. And it's a whole thing. But there is money to be made as a freelance artist selling your artwork through conferences and conventions. Kind of going back to what I started with, when I would go to them and I would talk to people who have tables, and knowing how much they cost, knowing how much money it takes to print all your stuff, to drive to these places, bring all your stuff, pay for this table, pay for a hotel. That was my dog. Do you hear her?
Oh no. I heard like sneezed.
She just howled. It's okay.
Oh
yeah.
that noise reduction is doing a good job.
Good. But anyway, like long story short, I would ask these artists like, hey, how are you? I would just ask, I think bluntly, like, is art your full-time career? Are you making all of your income from art, from freelancing, all of this stuff?
Yeah.
And like, honestly, 9 times out of 10, they would say no, which was a shock to me, because I'm, again, right out of college, trying to make freelance work, not really sure how to do it, failing sometimes, like struggling, all of this like mental health issues of imposter syndrome, like what am I doing? Do I know what I'm doing? All this kind of shit. And then I would talk to people and ask them what their experience with freelancing is, and is it their full-time job? And like 9 out of 10 times they would either say no.
They're like, no.
They're like, no, I have a day job where I work this or a grocery store or whatever, just some regular day job, or I'm a developer, and then I make art on the side, and then I go to conferences. My job gives me all this like vacation, and I take it and I go and I do these conferences.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I think that's the reality that everyone is kind of quiet about.
My life is a lie.
Yeah, like I'm over here trying to do it in this. It's like the way I'm trying to do it is not even well researched. I guess this is how you do it, and I'm struggling, and I'm wondering how is everyone else able to do this, and I'm not. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And these people either have a day job and then they do art on the side. They still are artists. Obviously, they're still artists, and they're still very serious about it, and they're professionals. But they also have a second job, or they're in a situation where their spouse is a working, like,
sure.
a regular ass like person that's in the working class and working field, which for a household that allows them to together
maintain and
make enough money, live a pretty decent life.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was not living like with my wife. Now I was living at my mom's house. So that thing specifically, I think it's kind of related to what we're saying about being able to have a regular life and do an art and be an artist at the same time. That's another side of it, is like, if you're freelancing, you don't have to just freelance and make all of your money just purely over freelancing. You can make money all kinds of different ways, and it's totally fine.
Yeah. I mean, basically your story that you explained is, very reminiscent to my story as well too. Like, fresh out of college. So I hear you, man. And, I think, to your point, like, everything that you said is true. Like, you don't just have to freelance, like, you can do something else, fund your ambition, balance your schedule somehow,
Yeah.
and go that way.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to volunteer. I was going to propose if we want to get any refills on, water, things like that. I'm going to get one because it's 84 degrees in my...
You look cool as a cucumber, man.
Man, on the outside, maybe.
Dying on the inside.
Right.
Cooking on the inside.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I can't wait until this AC gets fixed. That's a whole nother beast in itself. But anyway, yeah, I'll be right back. I'm going to go rest, and I'm going to rejoin in a second.
All right, man.
I'm watching an H2O break. Yes.
H2O. Yes. Hydrogen, oxygen. Hydrogen, oxygen. Is that what that is?
That's correct.
Hydrogen, oxygen. Am I right?
Hydrogen. We've got the hydrogen dioxygen combination. Yeah. That's correct.
H2O is hydrogen to oxygen.
Yes.
Hydrogen squared. You can tell I didn't focus in biology or whatever.
Chemistry and Chemistry. I mean we could say like biochem, it's
no, there's no saving me. I definitely didn't. I don't even think I took chemistry. I think it's just biology, and then
I mean,
I might have taken chemistry. I don't even remember it. Honestly, don't remember anything outside of art stuff. But speaking of taking courses and not paying attention and then potentially failing them, what are some? So it's September, and October is Inktober, and do you know what Inktober is?
I am very familiar.
Do you want to tell what you understand Inktober to be?
Yeah, sure. So even though I've never participated, Inktober is a seasonal competition that happens, every October. Artists, illustrators, they will basically go through a series of prompts. You're going to illustrate something, typically using a ink, felt tip, whatever, just pen to make some pretty badass artwork. So that's what Inktober is.
So I remember that Inktober was coming up. It's been going on for 10 years or something like that. And it's a community thing that every artist just participates in. And I was reminded of it. It was like this feeling of dread came over me, because I don't think I've ever successfully finished any Inktober.
Really?
Yeah. And you said that you've never done them, but I've never been able to finish them. I think. Yeah. Sucks.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I mean, at least you've been able to start. In contrast to me, I think maybe Yeah, no, I don't recall explicitly and intentionally doing any artwork for Inktober, but you
Would
have.
would do you think you would? Do you think you would like this year, this
Oh
month coming
yeah,
up? You would try it?
this this year, yeah. I if I did, it would be for ooh. I'm thinking if it should be for like just manga type of work, or like I don't know. Like I feel like I should
Yeah.
because I love using ink, but I've got all these other projects in my backlog too that I'm like, okay, like can I do both?
I mean,
So
yeah, you can try fitting it, I guess, into the work that you're already doing, because it doesn't have to follow the prompts. You can do your own
true.
thing, and as long as you do one ink art thing every day, it counts. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I would just get super excited on the first day, and like I've never really been good at doing these kind of like doing an art piece every day for so and so amount of time. I don't
Yeah.
do that. I guess I do a little bit of art every day, like at my job and freelancing and things like that, but I don't do a finished drawing every single day. I've never done that.
Yeah.
I've tried. It's very hard. I always get burnt out like right at the last minute,
Yeah.
and then I get burnt out and I get angry at myself, and I'm like, why did I? What is this is dumb. Everyone that does this sucks. Like I just get mad at everyone and everything.
Stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
just
Right.
turn into a baby about it. But I'm gonna try again, and I'm
Yeah,
probably gonna
yeah.
get to like day 15, and that's about it. That's about where I end.
Okay.
I think what happens is that you get very quickly humbled. You're like,
Sure.
I haven't drawn with ink in a long time, but I'm pretty sure when I start, if I get a brush pen, I'll be the next Kim Jong-gi, and you're not. You can't draw even like a person. You're like, oh god,
Yeah, right,
I
right.
really suck. And the first
And
3
let me
days is just breaking through that sucky feeling of realizing how much you suck
yeah,
at drawing with ink.
and let me ask this question too. Are us using ink only? Because like I didn't know if you could, do like pencil and then ink, or is it just like ink?
I think the biggest debate is digital versus traditional, but you should be,
Ooh.
I think you can definitely do pencil first and then finish with ink, as long as
Okay.
ink is somewhere involved in the process.
Yeah.
I know that digital artists will do like black on white, so they're not doing ink,
Sure.
but they're doing just like that, make it so it's like a solid black line every time you draw. Some people have done
Yeah.
it that way, and then it's kind of inky in that way, or they
Yeah,
use an
yeah.
ink brush or something like that in Procreate. And I mean, people do that. You do whatever you want, really. And some people just treat it
Right.
as like a month where they just do a drawing every day. But I'm gonna try to do Inktober again. I have no idea what I'm gonna draw. Every time I see the prompts, I'm like, nah. And then I see somebody else's
Yeah.
version or somebody else's iteration of that prompt, and I'm like, that
You're
looks
like,
sick.
oh.
Oh man, I should have done that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm never. It's just the prompts, man. They make me feel so uncreative.
Yeah.
It'll be like
I can see
witch's
it. It's
brew,
like,
and then I just think of a cauldron, and then that's boring to me.
yeah.
But then you see somebody's drawing, and it looks awesome. They're like a
Yeah,
witch with
yeah.
all this smoke and all this mystery. Damn, dude! Not only are people way more creative than me, they're also like just better artists.
Mm.
So that,
I think
so yeah, that's
it's,
for me. Inktober, the experience is like just feeling bad.
yeah. No. I mean, like, and dude, like, no, I don't think it's about like being a better artist. I think if anything, speaking from somebody who has not done it, right? I think it's an exhibition to where like it's asking you to push the limits of your creativity and imagination. Like, what's a witch? Like, here's a good example. Let's get like too off topic, but like I was doing creature design for Kenix again, and like there's a very expansive bestiary of animals and spirits and all these different things that enemies basically.
Is a bestiary
And
a catalog of all your best friends?
oh, good question. Yeah, thank you. For those of us who don't know, my bestiary is no. So yeah, a
Like
bestiary.
me.
Me. But yeah. So a bestiary, it's an encyclopedia of fictitious animal species, or like things like that, typically within a fantasy universe. So
Like
like
a
you can have like a
Pokédex of beasts.
yeah. It's literally a Pokédex of beasts,
Nice.
basically. Yeah. And so with this bestiary, with the creatures I was making a fairy, right? And so, typically when you're thinking about fairy, if you're given a prompt in Inktober, like, hey, Mike, draw a fairy. Like you think about like a humanoid with like butterfly wings or dragonfly wings or something like that.
Yeah.
But you could really stretch the boundaries on that. And so like for me, I was like, hey, what is a fairy? right?
You're
What's a
inspiring
wish?
me. I gotta write this down. Keep talking.
Take notes, Michael. Take notes.
I'm taking
Yeah,
notes.
but so for me, like I came up with this idea of like, okay, let's take all the themes that comprise a theory and let's deconstruct them. Let's like, take them apart for a second, right? Like you've got like some human features in a theory, you've got some like insectoid features, you've got some like, magical mystery features, whatever. And I really just kind of like flipped them on their head. So I made this illustration, which I'll show here. Once we like do the
Yeah.
whatever updates and stuff. So I made this illustration, and I made this like this kind of gangly looking, like insectoid, but like human kind of thing with these big like bulbous eyes, and
Whoa.
these like yeah. So like this kind of like horror twist on a fairy, like not too scary because like it's with it's my fiction novel. I'm doing it to my style, but this thing to where it's if you encounter one of these creatures in combat, oh shit, like your guard's up, so it's
Holy
like
shit.
yeah.
I'm writing down more stuff. You're inspiring me more.
Happy to assist. So hopefully this could like spill over into Inktober for you. These topics, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, reverse engineer stuff.
Dude, this is cool. Well, I wanted to ask then, and you mentioned that you would be fine with sharing this story or sharing this experience, kind of going off of failures. You had an interesting, and this is something actually we started talking about initially when we started talking more recently and catching up.
Yeah.
Tell me about a work experience you had that was. Yeah, I mean, from the outside, it looked like you were doing some cool stuff, and you were busy grinding, like hustling, doing stuff. Yeah. Amir's a pro. Amir's a professional artist. He's doing all this cool stuff, and then that ended up not being what you expected. So yeah, just tell me the story if you, however comfortable you feel like making it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. No, this is a juicy story that we can unpack. So a little bit about it. Back in about 2017, I met this guy. Met this guy in an Uber, and so riding, he's talking to me, and he tells me that he's a creative. Like he's on X, Y, and Z. He's trying to do this venture. He's very, very charismatic. Very like sociable, like normal looking type of dude. He asked me about what I do. I mentioned that I'm a creative. He takes note of my name. He's drawing all these like, connectivities, if you will, where it's like, oh, you do this? Like, oh, wow, like me too. Like, blah, blah, blah. These kind of heartstrings, if you will, these social heartstrings. And long story short, he tells me that he wants to stay in touch. We exchange information. And he tells me that he wants to bring me on to a project, like a kind of commission type of thing. Like, can you help me design packaging for these sneakers that I'm looking to release and this and that, right? And so I agreed to it, and that turns into like basically him saying, hey, like I can pay you for this commission right now. I could pay you the full money, or I could let you in on this opportunity. Yeah, dude, red flag.
I could pay you, or I can give you what's in this box.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like not suspicious at all. So,
I mean, 2017. That's like right out of college, right?
Basically, I mean, yeah, less than 2 years, or I guess like 2 years more or less, like out of college, like very, very fresh, very green, into the field.
You were like hopeful and
naive.
Didn't think that such a thing like this.
And don't get me wrong, by the way, too. Like this guy had a collection of work, work that was made, designs that were made, from like fashion concept sketches, like, material samples. Like it looked like super legit, because clearly there was work that was done to get certain things made. And so, yeah, I was very much sold on this idea of like, hey, like this guy, like he's doing this idea, there's strength in numbers. He's got a small team of people working with him, this and this and that. And, the concept, the vision sounds like very, very attractive. It sounds original. It sounds like something I could, make a big influence in. And, one thing that I always caution okay, to anyone who's kind of green and who's like looking to get their feet in the door, and who's trying to build a portfolio off these opportunities. Don't work for free. Don't work for free. There's something to be said about trying to help as a kind of investor, or as somebody who's like building the vision as well. But your labor is not for free, because forget paychecks for a second, right? Like, you're inheriting a lot of risk, and depending on how much you're pulling out of the well, it's going to end up biting you at the end if something goes wrong. You just can't trust people that you don't know. There's also that too.
Yeah, and like I guess if you do end up doing any kind of free work or pro bono or anything on a discount, I mean, you're saying, like, make sure it's somebody you know.
Yeah.
Make sure it's somebody that you do trust, because that's a very big risk to take, to do anything for free or discount. Maybe do the first couple of jobs full pay.
Sure.
Know that they have the money, that kind of thing. And then if after a lot of work, if one of those things like, hey, you mind doing this for free or this and that, maybe. Yeah. If you have a long history of working with them, a free job here or there to help them out, like, definitely reasonable.
Yeah. Like, that's
from
sure.
the start, probably a red flag to like ask for them to do it for free.
Yeah, exactly. I also want to say this too, right? Like, just going back to my story, like, there were moments where I did get paid nominal amounts in comparison to how much work I was putting out, but still moments where I did.
So like almost enough to keep you believing that this is going to be something.
Basically, a carrot in front of the horse, if you will, right? Yeah, and so, just to kind of like elaborate a little bit more, basically there's a dude, the guy in the Uber, he was probably in his late 40s, early 50s or whatever. He was very much a charismatic con artist. The definition of right and wrong was so inverted, I guess you could say. Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to tell unless you were around this person long enough, and that was the kind of scary thing about it, right? He was very good at putting on a face, but then when it came down to like when you could kind of let down the hair, get very comfortable, certain ideologies and subjective perspectives on what's right and what's wrong. It's like, okay, like that feels off, And so it got to a point where, like, after working with this guy and a small team of individuals, I said before, for probably, I'm gonna say like a year and a half, and the entire working relationship was longer than that. We finally got to the point where I made a website that was bringing in clientele, or I shouldn't say bringing in clientele, but, it was marketing like the services, the design services, all of which I was footing to raise the money for other, like investments within the organization. More specifically being, the fashion and the clothing and all of that stuff. Like, Mike, you probably remember, seeing some moments where like I was out on photo shoots. Or,
yeah, I do.
And that's because, a lot of the money that I was bringing in was funding a lot of that. Like,
so
I'm sure there's
you weren't getting the money, you weren't getting paid for that stuff. They were taking any money they were making off of your hard work and putting it back into like promoting and hiring photo shoots and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm sure if we're just trying to be like very semantical about it, like there might have been like, some contributions from people. Actually, there were monthly contributions. People were like tossing money into like a, like monthly deposit, pot of gold, if you will. But ultimately, the big bucks were coming in only from me.
You mean from the work you did, not like you financially putting money into it?
From the work that I did.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I want to make that distinction.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so just more red flags and stuff like that. Let's talk about like what I just explained, because I explained a lot a second ago. If the majority of expenses, if the majority of capital, in some sort of group venture is going towards something that is not profitable, that's a red flag in itself. It's one thing to, like invest some funds into, like an idea that's going to potentially become profitable in the future, but to dump all of that money into that's reckless. Number two, I didn't have any optics into what percentages of what money was going where. I was totally blind. I was believing that these guys, in good faith, would use the money how it's supposed to be used based on the, subject matter expertise. Pardon me. That the ringleader had with business or whatever else. And so, people started to kind of like flake off and things like that. Like some people were leaving, but also a lot of those people weren't really contributing anything either. So it was kind of, okay, like you're bringing this guy along because he's your buddy, or you're bringing this guy along because, you see something in him, but it's not bringing much business value. So that's a little bit about that. Like I think there's more that I could say. This is a very long story, but just kind of like get to the cliff notes of the kind of conclusion of it. It got to the point to where after noticing enough red flags, I said, like, guys, I'm out. This is what I'm planning to do. Here's the exit plan, blah, blah, blah. But after 2 months, 3 months, like, I'm out. And there was a lot of pleading, and a lot of, don't go, and, manipulative. Oh, remember when we made this together, et cetera, et cetera. Like sob story. Yeah. Unfortunately for me, on the topic of failure, going back to your initial point as well, too, and, kind of putting that in quotes also, they asked me for a loan, a personal, loan.
Dude.
And
the audacity.
Right. All of my friends told me, they said, Amir, don't do it. Like, don't do it. And I said to myself, it's the least I was being too nice. They took advantage.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was being too nice. It was my fault for being too nice, but I gave them the money.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And, ultimately when it came time to pay it, it turned into he said, she said, I didn't say I was going to pay you back on this date. And eventually, the head ringleader blocked me, stole my site, stole the work that I made for him, changed his Instagram and LinkedIn to report that he's the lead designer of all the shit that I built. Honestly, dude, yeah, like, I mean, he even like bought a house, like with some of the funds as well. And
that's so awful.
It is, but mind you, I mean, like, I'm sure that house is probably getting foreclosed right now because so as fucked up as it is, yeah, like, I'm still paying back like the money.
It's fucked up for you. Like, the whole thing is fucked up for you. So wait, how did you so you're doing this for a year and a half, you're doing all this free work essentially, you're putting your own money, you're giving them like a loan of your own money, all this stuff,
and longer than a year and a half over the course of all the stuff I'm talking about. But
okay, so how did you go from being totally into it to like, what was the tipping point where you're like, yeah, I should probably get out of this?
There were several things. I feel like the list is too long, but I feel like the more comfortable, they got with me, specifically this guy, got with me, like more of the kind of, let's just say definitions of, right and wrong and things like that were kind of spilling out, where I was like, yeah, like that's just a little too shaky for me. Like that's not what I personally agree with. And maybe just like to give some context so that, people don't think that I'm talking about like, bodies being tossed in ditches on the side of the road and stuff. Crazy thing. Okay. Crazy thing. Fuck.
I mean, you don't have to like keep going if you don't want to. Like, we can definitely like stop or cut it out or something.
Sure. Yeah. I'll give like a little, tad bit about this without like disclosing too much information. But the particular one of the organizations, if you will, that this guy once had an affiliation with, there's a school of thought within that particular organization that teaches you that the events that happen in the physical world are very, very, how can I put this? They're not as they seem, and definitions of right and wrong are just much more subjective sometimes.
Yeah, like pretty much every cult ever. Yeah.
Basically.
It's some cult shit, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that was like a massive red flag, and then like there were other things, and I was just like, yeah, like I'm out. So,
okay. Man, that's rough. The whole out of college, green, this cool guy, seemingly successful, seemingly having everything together, asks you to come work at his venture, and it's like they've got products, they've got a portfolio of things, they have employees, and so and then I think my cat's trying to get in.
I heard something.
He's like trying to get at the door handle. I can hear it screaming.
Yeah.
But like, all of that, and then at the very end when you're like, all right, I want to get out, they don't even hear you out and pay you for the work or pay you for the website. They just block you on everything, and then you're SOL kind of thing.
Basically. Yeah. Yeah. So, but there is one more thing I kind of want to conclude on. We talked about failure. You mentioned it. To me, in that experience, like there were many moments where I felt like I was like, I have failed. I failed at this, that, and that. Like I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. And like to anybody who's listening, right? Like I'd say the same thing about like the red flags that I mentioned. Like if there were any of these hues, like like get out of there. But in many ways, right, like the reason why I said failure originally in parentheses subjectively was that, there are many lessons that were taken away from that experience that really helped me not only as a designer, but also as a person too, like just to like figure out like, okay, these are all the things that I learned in my design ventures while doing that. These are all the things I learned in my business ventures while doing that. But also like as a person, like I've seen some shitty people, and like being able to like identify a bit more easier or a bit easier, excuse me, what looks like what going into something is a big win for a lifetime lesson. That is like that's going to stick with you for a lifetime. While it's a lesson that I don't think that, you should try to learn in the same exact way that I've learned it, it's still knowledge that's going to be invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's why it's like so valuable, I think, for you to share this, because hopefully somebody hears this that's like, yeah, that sounds like something I heard, or that sounds like a thing I'm going through or whatever, and then maybe I should ask some follow-up questions to see if it's actually worth my time or if it's actually legit. I think there's definitely a lot of instances of artists just being taken advantage of, especially like right out of school. They're like, need to pay their debts, need to pay their loans off, and so you kind of just take whatever you can get. And there's that whole romance of getting in on something early and like succeeding with it.
Yeah, and make no mistake, people definitely prey on that. Like there are many bad people or opportunistic, sneaky people in the world, that you're not taught about in school, or that maybe your parents, didn't teach you about per se. And it happens in movies, right? Like it happens in real life, and in real life, I'd say it's it's even more jarring and shocking because, like, you see the thing on screen, you're like, oh, like, that's a fictional history. Yeah. But then, like, you see the things in real life and you're like, whoa, like somebody can really think and believe and behave and live in a reality that's their own construct in this type of way. Like, that's,
yeah, it's weird. It's weird because it does make you become more cautious, and you kind of lose trust in working with clients that, like, as a freelance artist who you may not be familiar with. So I've heard a story. I had a friend told me a story and then I've heard other people share a similar story online, but it's this weird scam, I guess, where somebody will want to hire you for something, and then they'll find you like, hey, we want to hire you for some concept art or whatever for some production stuff we're doing, but you need like this software, or you need this hardware. You need a Wacom, you need ZBrush, or what they'll say, something that costs money, and then they'll send you a check for that money. Like they say, go ahead and buy the thing. It's some kind of thing where they send you a check, like an actual check. Yeah. And then they want the difference. They send you more than what you need.
I've heard of,
and they want you to pay back the difference. Yeah. And then you pay back the difference, but then their check bounces, and then you just, you're out of like $300 or whatever. Luckily, the people that I've heard it from, they say like they get the check and then they just hold on to it. And then the person's like, hurry up and deposit it. Like, I need to see that the money left my account. Some dumb shit like that. Hurry up and buy the thing and then deposit it. All this weird pressure, and then you don't even know if this person is legit. Sometimes their email will like be something that sounds like a real thing, but it's like a slight misspelling. So those, like, I feel like I've gotten some of those before, and I just instantly like, no way. I've done a lot of work for like album artwork and electronic dance music artists, things like that. Yeah. And there's always new artists coming out, always new people, and a lot of indie artists, which is fair. Like that, that there's a big indie scene. Yeah. And sometimes I'll get messages and DMs of somebody like, yo, I want you to do my cover artwork. Before I even say yes, or before I even give them my rates, like I have a number in my head for the rates. I ask like, send me your music, send me like any verifying information. Um,
Right.
or like it'll just be somebody that wants artwork, or they want a ton of stuff. They want more than artwork. They want like all this other stuff. They want an
Yeah.
animation. They want all this stuff, and their budget's like $300 or $150, and you're like, or they don't have
Yeah.
a budget, or like do it for free, and then I'll give you all this other work. There's a lot of red and yellow flags working as a freelance artist, and I feel like we could, like, somebody needs to just compile all of the different types of scams that are out there, like all the
Yeah.
different ways that
Yeah.
you could end up working for a weird client that you can get screwed over for. I mean, all this stuff is like super
Yeah.
valuable, and that should be like, a college course on that kind of stuff, an art college course, because
Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah.
so
Because
valuable.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that same scam, the one with the check, like I've seen that same exact scenario, but in like different scenarios, like rebranded and reskinned differently. So yeah, that was pretty common. I saw, or I got approached, I want to say like twice, by that same type of scam. I was just like, yeah, I'll hold on to the check and
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
bye.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to
Yeah.
this. It's my check now. It's all right. It just bounces anyway.
Basically. Right. Right.
God. Yeah, man. I'm happy to hear at least now, just to like update folks. You're good. Like, that happened a while ago. Since then, you had legitimate work. You said you worked at Porsche earlier.
Yeah.
Now you're working at some new place, and you're a successful, like, you're getting a real salary. It's not like some BS like that other thing. So whatever that
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
obviously it happened for too long. Luckily, you got out and you were able to continue from that. Like, I'm sure there was a hit in your
Exactly.
like confidence,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It was
now you're good. Like, now you're healthy.
yeah, yeah. If anything, I'd say, it was a hit on the ego also, right? Like confidence is one thing, but not to like get like way too deep in the weeds, but yeah, dude, like I was vilified hard for asking for the money and then blocked and then have my work stolen and then
Wow.
yeah, so just like this is some bullshit. So
Probably like, really stressful too, I bet, man. Like, I mean,
yeah,
jeez.
yeah, yeah. I had a lawyer on the case and everything. Yeah, but things are like you said, better lessons were
Yeah.
learned.
I I
Yeah,
remember when you called me and told me about that. Like, I'm learning a lot more about that whole incident today than I knew back then.
yeah,
But I remember you calling me, telling me about that, and then me wishing you like good luck with that. That sounds insane. And then later we talked, and
yeah,
you're like, "Oh yeah, I got a new job at Porsche," and I was like, "What the hell?" And you're like sending me all these like pictures and all these
yeah,
like
dude. Yeah,
from the
yeah,
studio and all these cars. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, what a redemption! Like, what a redemption arc almost. Like, you were
yeah,
really like in a place of like, dude, how the hell? This is like the worst place for an artist to be.
yeah,
And then suddenly working at Porsche, and then off of that, now you're working somewhere else, and now you're teaching.
yeah, yeah. Just trying to build the individual creative brand autonomously.
It's nice to
Yeah,
see like an artist succeeding, but also like persevering, making it through the hard stuff, the hardships. It's
yeah,
just cool
dude.
because art is really hard as a career. And for you to have like gone through that and then also and still made it out on top is like huge.
Yeah, and that's what matters too, like to your point. Just persevering, don't give up. You're gonna go through shit sometimes, but if you keep on putting that same creative and self-driving energy towards you, underlining that word you're God willing, going to continue to move on a good trajectory going forward.
Yeah,
So
man, and I think it sounds like also that you knew what you wanted even when it may not have been necessarily working your way. Because even
yeah,
once you got out of that, I'm sure it was like you were kind of just thrown up into the air and you're not sure if anything's going to catch you. But in your back pocket, I guess you kind of had like, I don't know, this is a bad analogy, like an umbrella to like
yeah, yeah.
lessen,
I def
to like you make your landing not so harsh because you still had ideas that you wanted to pursue. You still had the stuff, the personal work that you were Kenix. Am I saying that right? Kenix?
yeah, yeah. Connects,
Kenix.
connect. It's okay. Yeah,
You had
connects. Yeah,
Kenix, you had all this like other side work and all this personal work that you could fall back on and rebuild your ego through and
yeah.
clear. And I see you doing that now, and I see you still doing that. So I think so. I guess my last question is, what would you want? What do you want? Yeah, what do you see for your future? What do you want out of the work that you're putting in now?
Yeah, great question, man. I think, like you and I were kind of talking about this topic too. I think I'll kind of start like a quick story and talk about like this kind of moment, this kind of like Prometheus effect, if you will, when I was a kid, where like the spark of creativity that I have today kind of first manifested, or like really manifested really strongly. And that was when I was introduced to various forms of international media that had design intent put behind it to tell a story. One of those examples was Sonic the Hedgehog. Another example was, coincidentally enough, with like Porsche cars and things like that. But I'll talk about the Sonic the Hedgehog example, right? Because, like this is a video game, as many of us already know, perhaps listening. But to me, like seeing it on the Sega Genesis for the first time, I didn't just see it as a video game. I saw it as, a immersive experience into some sort of adventure, right? Like Sonic was a new character back in 1992.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking. So, like you had this, really well composed music. You had these, very vibrant and detailed environments that you would like move like really fast through. And, like you had like a tiny storyline, like something in there. Like I could recite it really well because like I'm a huge nerd. So I could but to most people it's like, yeah, right. Most people it's like, emeralds and like Dr. Robotnik and something
Shadow.
Space Shadow.
Shadow was so right. Badass.
Dude, Sonic Adventure 2 was my childhood. But yeah, but like even like leading into like some of the adventure series, which I won't like talk too much in detail about like right now, but the visual storytelling was something that like left an imprint on me to where I was like, okay, like this is really cool. Like this is like hella cool. I don't know what this is. I don't know how to put this into words, but I want some of that. Yeah. Like I want some of that and to make some of that.
Yeah.
And to give it to somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah. And so going back to your question originally, I think that, with all of the fields and the avenues of creativity that, I've kind of mastered today, recreating that magic through the, like many different mediums that I've mastered, but just focusing on a few select, projects, if that's, projects within the design umbrella that I, emulate, or if those are projects within the kind of fine arts visual storytelling umbrella, like with the book stuff that I'm working on, all of that, sharing that same Prometheus effect, that same like impetus of creativity with like as a kid in like Indonesia, if that's somebody who is like a next door neighbor or on the other hemisphere of the world, to me I want to magnify and amplify that effect for a bunch of people. And so I've got a bunch of projects that kind of in a backlog that all kind of strategically feed off of each other, that are, meant to kind of build my own personal creative universe. And I just want to get it out there and share it. So
that's beautiful, man. I can feel it already. I can feel it in kind of going back to the beginning when I mentioned watching your videos where you're explaining your art and kind of walking us through it, and how there's a whole aesthetic and a brand around it. I definitely feel that. Yeah. And maybe that's why really like deep down, I personally enjoy it. I mean, I'm not like some kid in Indonesia. I'm like some 30-year-old idiot. Yeah. In, on the East Coast. But like, even for me, I think I recognize how much effort you're putting into creating this world, even though it's kind of on its surface like a real thing. You're talking about your work, but you're putting the music behind it. You're putting the color grading on top of it. You're doing the editing. You're compositing the shots and all that stuff. That's really what I like about your videos, and why I so much want you to keep doing them and do more of them. And because I keep wanting to go back into that world. You are really good at that, man. You're really good at, like, your videos are a little window into like the world that you're kind of creating, even if it's not necessarily the Kenix world, or if it's Kenix.
Yeah, there we go.
Kenix.
Yeah, you got
Kenix.
It. Yeah, perfect.
Kenix. I gotta remember the E before the I. Kenix.
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
The Kenix world is this manga and this story, and I'm really looking forward to getting that book and reading it, because I'm sure it'll do the same. Like, just draw me
thanks,
in.
Man. Yeah.
But this world that you're also showing just through your art, through your Middle Eastern, like Asian, African artwork that you're doing, these installations and things for your own house. I mean, I think it's a beautiful collection, and can't wait to come over and see all this stuff in person. I'm sure it's amazing. It's like when you do the videos, you're not only building the atmosphere of this experience, but you're also educating me and telling the audience about this artwork and what it is and where it stems from, all this stuff. And like the way that and we talked about, like, rehearsing and saying it right.
Yeah.
And having the right tones.
20 times after.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But it still comes off as like, it's like you're putting more effort into it clearly than like your average person that's showing you a thing that they drew. And I know it's a lot of work. I know that you've mentioned staying up to like 3 a.m. editing videos.
But
I think it's worth it. And
it's totally worth it. Yeah. I mean, I want you to, I'm getting like, passionate as you're talking about it too. But, to me, it's worth it. I want you to have a very curated, immersive, memorable experience. And so, the minutia that goes into it, to me, it's very important to build that bigger ecosystem. But
that's the thing, is like, sometimes I'll watch a movie, like you were talking about Sonic, and I felt this with video games before in the past, like other video games like BioShock and like these video games with very rich worlds that have a lot of world building that goes on in them and a deep history and all this kind of stuff. And I've gotten this from movies before. Like you'll watch a movie, and at the end of the movie, you think, oh man, I wish I could be in that movie for real. Like I wish that technology existed so I could experience it myself. And that is kind of what I feel about your artwork and the way that you make your content, the way that you produce it, is that, again, like a glimpse into a type of world that maybe doesn't exist, but you are the architect of it. You're able to make it exist, and it's really inviting, it's really warm. And I'm kind of hoping that if I ever, kind of a lot of pressure, if I ever come visit you in person, I'm kind of expecting that world to exist as soon as I enter. Like as soon as I enter your house, you're gonna be like, welcome, Michael. Like, smoke and like all this stuff.
Down tempo music playing in the background. We've got like a freaking barista.
Yep. There's like a DJ. There's a barista. There's a mixologist or whatever. And it's just like and like playing tacos or something. And you're like, Michael, you're like in a robe or something, smoking like a really long cigar.
I was gonna say like a bubble cigar, but that could work too.
And it's like 90 degrees in there.
Dude, it's 84 degrees right now, only because the air conditioning is broken. It is. You're not too far off.
I'm imagining you recording your videos and welcome to my world, and then the other side you're just sweating, beating sweat in your underwear, just trying to stay cool.
Just like, top up. It's just like, suit jacket, and everything else is just underwear. But yeah, dude, by the time you get here, like, this will be fixed. So sadly, it will not be 90 degrees, but it might be 75
nice.
Degrees
That's
instead,
the vibe.
so.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm like super. I'm glad you're doing these videos, and I know they're a lot of work, like, for you to like get into it and reveal that side of yourself and talk. But I think they're awesome, and I mean, they might not be. I think they add to the world building for you as an exercise. Like, you're talking about it, you're describing this world to us. You're helping a lot of newer audience members learn about this world and why it's so cool and all this kind of stuff. It's like educational. It's very educational. You're teaching me about culture and history, the stuff like I don't know about, and I think it's super valuable.
I'm super happy to hear, man, because like that's another thing that to me is very important as well. My work isn't meant to just be like a distraction for like entertainment purposes. 9 times out of 10 you're going to find some like deeper underlying meaning in everything that I make. And so even if that's just like surface level like historical facts about some culture or language or whatever it is, or something deeper than that, like there's always kind of one of those themes that are kind of Easter eggs, if you will, in my stuff. So yeah.
And I think you can definitely see that. Definitely see you can just see the work. You can tell there's a lot of work. Well, cool, man.
Happy to present.
Yeah, dude. I think we're gonna wrap this up. So I mean, that was a great conversation. It went insanely well. I just
Thanks, man.
If you have any, like, do you want people to go to your IG, to your personal IG, to like websites?
Yeah, dude, sure. To everybody that's listening, I mean, you can take a look at my work on Instagram at Amir S. Hamer. That's AmirSHAM as in Michael ER. And then if you want to take a look, Zinga. Yeah, no, but yeah, for my personal website, you can take a look at amirashamer.com.
Nice.
And you'll find uploads of artwork, design projects, new exhibitions, past clientele. Hopefully in the near future, for those of you who are interested in the kind of light novel, fantasy, manga stuff that I'm doing as well, just know that there's a website that's going to be scheduled for all of that. But until then, you can follow me on my Instagram to see any updates on that.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your evening, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks. We definitely will.